Yes, and I do Pilates normally on Sundays, but I'm not gonna lie to you, Ruba. I forgot to sign up for class today. And when I try to get into my normal class, I'm like, honey, no, we're
Mm,
full. That's like respect. That was my
understood.
fault.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're here. We are here today because I have one of my favorite fellow creatives and who just happens to be a fellow colleague of mine, Rouba Abou Chabke. And she is going to be on the show today. We're going to talk about the art of the journey, storytelling through travel and photography. Because not only is she a brilliant creative, but she is also a talented photographer. And I am really grateful to have this conversation with her because, as you know, with this platform, the goal is to amplify communities of color and underserved voices within the creative space and to make sure we all have a seat at the table. So we're going to read her receipts because she got receipts, y'all. The people I invite to the show, they got receipts. They got receipts. They just didn't start this yesterday, okay? They didn't start a Canva account or pick up a digital camera and say, "Ooh, I like that." No, they have receipts. So Ruba from True by You, is a multifaceted creative with a passionate for storytelling through the lens. A designer by trade, Ruba has seamlessly woven her love for photography into her professional journey, starting a small woman-owned photography business in 2022 that is dedicated to capturing the true essence of life's most precious moments. Her work reflects a deep appreciation for authenticity, emotion, and the beauty found in everyday details, finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Beyond photography, Ruba has embraced a dynamic career path as a humanitarian worker, travel consultant, because she be outside. A plane hate to see her coming. Educator and project manager. Her diverse experiences have taken her across the globe, enriching her perspective and fueling her commitment to make a positive impact. Whether it's through her lens or her projects, Ruba strives to connect people, preserve memories, and inspire change one moment at a time. And with that being said, welcome to Coffee with Yvonne River! Yay! Hi, friend!
Hi, Yvonne. Thank you for the beautiful intro and hyping me up. I love it. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, you deserve your flowers, and we're going to give it to you.
Thank you.
That's it. And the best part is, too, knowing that photography is a great way of not just capturing people's stories, but telling history. I really do have respect for what photographers do in the space. And fun fact about me before we get into our interview, I actually took a photography class in college.
Ooh,
Yes, I did. As part of
nice.
my electives. Yes.
Nice. Did you
Hmm.
did you shoot digital or was it analog?
I did digital because at that time, remember we had those little Canon digital cameras? Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. I had a Canon digital camera for my personal, but I learned how to shoot, I think, on either a Canon with a lens or a Nikon. I can't remember.
Okay.
But I always tell people when you're going into marketing or communication space, I recommend taking a class in photography
Hmm.
because there's something about not just knowing how to shoot images with your phone but slowing down to
Yeah.
capture it with a camera is different. And
Yeah.
photography, to me, ties in the full impact of storytelling. Because if you're able to capture a story in a picture, you're a true communicator and a true marketer. People who have that talent are able to use that talent in various ways through that medium of art. So I just wanted to share that with you before we
I
got
love
started.
that. And you're so, so right. And I feel like even today, when you're taking a picture with your phone, you're not just focused on what you're taking a picture of because you're holding your phone far enough and it's this whole everything else that's also in the picture, uh,
Mm-hmm.
your picture.
As a creative who wears so many hats, which is something that seems to be a track with us creatives, we love, being designers, videographers, etc. It's our thing, right? And you being a designer, a photographer, and a humanitarian, what has inspired your creative journey? Because everyone has their why, or why they started this industry or why they started their passion. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, absolutely. Really good question. And I go back to that question repeatedly in my journey because I feel like I always need to redefine my purpose as I go. And when I was looking for jobs in the last few years, I always had a comment that would say, your resume is all over the place. And I always thought that was an amazing thing. It's such an added value. But I digress. The why for me has always been to create, to preserve what exists, to
Mm-hmm.
inspire other people, but to also be a conduit for change. So even when I was in college and taking graphic design classes, the projects that I would work on were always something that was very human centered topics. Like I would define or design a flyer or design a whatever, a book cover or whatever. And the topics I would choose would be famine in Africa or like women being kidnapped in Brazil or, so I was always very intrigued by how the world works. And so that is the essence of my creative journey. I'm very curious. It's fueled by curiosity. It's fueled by wanting to connect with people, to understand them, and therefore understanding how the world around me works and why things are the way they are. And so design taught me that there's beauty in structure. There's beauty
Mm.
in layouts. There's beauty in the known, like you kind of know what you're working on. On the other hand, photography taught me to embrace the unknown because especially when I'm not like if it's not a family shoot, for example, if it's like I'm out traveling and I'm doing street photography, you never know what you're going to come about, what's going to happen, what you're going to run into. And that unknown is thrilling. It's really intriguing because it's like you just need to be there and kind of observe and be present in the moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
being a humanitarian worker in the humanitarian field taught me the power of storytelling and how knowing how to tell a story is such a powerful tool for driving change. So all of that really, takes me back to my why, how to create, how to preserve, how to inspire, and just be someone who, with whatever I do, I'm evoking emotion or I'm creating change or I'm helping somehow, no matter how small. I feel like actions that you take are ripple effects.
And I love that because, like, you mentioned going to in your foundational knowledge, like having graphic design background,
Yeah.
and even things like when you mentioned when you're first looking for a job that your resume, the feedback was that was all over the place. Funny thing is, that was the same feedback I got from my resume. Working first in the fashion marketing space to
Hmm.
now, the industry that we work in. But at the same time, each of those experiences that we have in our background have contributed to making us even better at the
Yeah.
roles we have right now, right? And
Yeah.
I think that sometimes there is something lost in the fact that people think a career journey has to be so straight, it has
Right.
to be so perfect. But it's the detours that you take, when you're figuring out where you want to be and trying different things, but still finding that connective tissue that makes you the creative you are today.
Right.
And when you mention like going to other countries and taking pictures and things like that, that brings me to just something I was curious about. When it comes to capturing like emotion and authenticity in such an intimate way through travel, more specifically through photography, how do you use that as a storytelling tool to communicate what words sometimes can't? Because that's very difficult, right?
I'm going to tell you a story before I
Oh,
dive
story
into my
time. Okay,
answer.
story
Yes.
time.
Talking about storytelling, here it goes. Back in December, I was visiting Southeast Asia, and one of the stops that I made was Vietnam. So I was in Hoi An, and it was very, very highly recommended to me from people that I met who knew that I was a photographer to go to this exhibit of a photographer, a French photographer, that was called Precious Heritage. The photographer's name is Rehan. He's a French man who's been living in Vietnam for a really long time. And he made it his purpose to travel all over the country and document the culture and the folklore and the attire that people wear and what the significance of every little detail in the folkloric attire, etc. So I'm walking to the gallery, and in my mind, like I kind of know what I'm expecting, right? It's going to be a display of like pictures of the clothes and explanations and da da da. That's in my mind, that's what I'm going to see. And I walk in, and I kid you not, it was this lobby, super colorful. The walls were like this yellow, and the frames are colorful, and the pictures are super colorful. And I walk in, and I stood there and I was so overwhelmed with emotion, happy emotion. I just teared up. A few seconds into walking into the gallery, I'm there just like feeling so many things at once. I didn't understand what I was feeling. It's not like I didn't get a minute to think about it. I was just like, my eyes were translating something into my brain and I just like cried. The images were not anything that warrants being sad. It was images of women from all over Vietnam cracking up, like laughing really hard. You had these women like covering their mouths, covering their eyes, laughing like wholeheartedly. But I think just seeing all of that happiness brought me emotion, you know, whether it was like, oh my God, like I miss seeing this authentic happiness around, or whether it's like, I'm so jealous of this photographer for capturing these treasures. So back to your question, how do I use photography as storytelling? I approach every shot with the intention of uncovering the true meaning behind it. So let's say not traveling. Let's say I'm here doing a family photo shoot and I tell the parents to do this and the kids to do that. And I'm like taking these pictures and I take tuck tuck tuck, pictures back to back. It's not until I sit down to edit that I see the things that I didn't really see while I was taking the pictures. Because let's say, for example, I had told the mom to hug the dad, and I'm like, I'm looking through the lens. I have the kids and the parents in the picture, but I'm focused on the parents. Like my eyesight is on them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I edit the picture and I see like the little kids giggling or like holding hands or hugging their mom in a way that was not like, I did not tell them to do that. So those raw emotions and those raw moments are what make my picture like these are my favorite pictures. It's not obviously I'm going to tell you to pose this way and that way, and that's by design, but I like the ones that are more unplanned. Same with traveling. Like I feel that especially with, if I'm walking down the street and I just see the smallest things that are happening and I capture them, whether by accident or on purpose, um, not necessarily knowing what the story behind these things that are happening is. I am catching a story. And then that's the beauty of art because it's open to interpretation. How I see it isn't going to see how you're isn't going to be the same way as you see it. It's not going to be how anyone else who sees it. I use photography as a storytelling tool, but I'm not specifically telling you the story. I'm letting you do the interpretation of it.
Yeah, I love the story about how you told the photo shoot with the family, and then also tying it back to the topic of our conversation related to travel. There are unplanned moments in travel, right, as you mentioned. And there
Mhm.
was this one moment when my mom and I were in Quebec last year. We went to Quebec and Montreal for like a long weekend last June. Actually, it was a year ago.
A year
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's a year ago. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, Ruba, with my camera that she gifted me, my Canon, I think it's called Rebel something camera,
Nice.
and I'm sitting there tooling around with it, trying to like figure out the lighting, true creative stuff. And we're waiting for our room to, we're like waiting for our room to be ready in the lobby. So I'm doing some test shots. And so when I'm clicking around, I see my mom sitting in a chair, and I just snapped this one photo, right? And I look back at the photo, and I'm just stuck at how beautiful this photo is of my mom. It's a simple photo of her sitting
Mhm.
in the chair, and all of a sudden she is just captured in the way with like the lighting and the shadow. And I have seen pictures of my mom before, but it was something about that image, Ruba, that showed joy in the
Mhm.
moment because
Mhm.
I'm taking my mom to places she has never been before, and seeing the joy and the light in her face of being able to discover a new country and a new city and have that opportunity with her daughter, something that
Yeah.
she wants to do with her mom. It was just all that was captured in that one photo of her
Mhm.
sitting in the chair of this hotel lobby. And so I think that's why I respect photographers so much, especially when they do photos that capture something that moves you to tears like that
Yeah.
photographer did for you. Because
Mhm.
it's a talent. You
Yeah.
cannot you you can't put that in a digital course or say on social media, here are 5 ways to do it. You either have to have it or
Mhm.
you don't. And
Right.
clearly that photographer has it and you do as well. And for you, Ruba, Being a global creative, which that's your new term, you're a global creative.
I
We're just
love
gonna
it. I love it.
we're gonna call you that. We're gonna call you a global creative. Being a global creative, how do you stay rooted while being so well traveled? Because traveling has a positive connotation to it and
Mhm.
also a negative connotation. And without getting too deep into it, people love to say they love to travel, but they also limit themselves on the countries that they travel to based on personal comfort. For what I've seen from your social media content, you like going places that are sometimes off the beaten path and also raises awareness to cultures that may be stigmatized, right? So, how do you figure out how to do that? How do you tie in your passion with creativity but also travel and bringing in that part into community as well?
To be a global creative is to use the world as your classroom,
Mm,
but also as your canvas. You're going to learn a lot. I've learned a lot from every place I've visited, every place I've lived in. I have learned so much, whether it's by the conversations I've had, the people I've met, the culture I've experienced, or even the challenges I had to work through to make it through the day or through my stay or whatever. Going anywhere with that mentality is really, really important. I think being a true traveler is very different than being a tourist. Being a traveler means you're going there off the beaten path, as you said. Maybe not always, but going with an open mind and being open to experiencing things at their authentic nature. And this is what, for me, for example, when I travel to so many places or go and live, I've lived in different cities and different countries before. What keeps me rooted is taking my values with me everywhere I go. Authenticity is number one for me. I really, really value bringing my authentic self to the conversation, putting my authentic self in the work that I do. Connecting with people is another thing. I don't think that I would have enjoyed or even cared for any of the places that I've seen if it wasn't for the connections that I made with people. And not just passerbys that I take pictures of, people that I sit and have conversations with, maybe even if it's not people that I'm ever going to see again. So I think it's being a global creative is it's a privilege. Don't forget who you are and keep
mhm,
being yourself, but also don't force yourself onto anything or your
mhm.
beliefs or your understanding of how things should be.
Being someone who has lived in a different country, there's also fear that comes from that too, of people embracing the unknown, especially traveling solo. So how have you stayed safe in those situations where you are traveling solo, when
Yeah,
you don't have a family member who's down the street or maybe a quick train ride away? Like, what are
right.
some things that you do to stay safe in those situations?
Um, the most basic thing is everyone, oh, my immediate family always knows where I am at all times. If I'm traveling, if I'm not like living in the new place, if I have an itinerary of like 3, 4 weeks that I'm traveling, they will get a breakdown of everywhere I go, every hotel I plan to stay at, all my flight information. They have it. My sister also has me on Find My Friends. So she, although she never remembers that she actually has that. So if I do get kidnapped, she's not going to remember that she can find me. So it's kind of useless, but she has that as well. I also never post in real time. So if I'm traveling, I don't put my location, I don't post stories until I leave the place. And I never tell people that I'm traveling solo. So anyone I meet along the way will very rarely know that I'm traveling solo. There's always my boyfriend is waiting in the hotel room or my aunt is coming to meet me for lunch or whatever. Um, it's not being paranoid. It's just you got to be safe. You know, I'm a woman
Mhm.
that, I need to take care of myself if I'm in a place where especially if I don't know anyone. Um, it's been a blessing that I kind of blend in everywhere I go almost. Except in Asia, I didn't blend in as much, but everywhere else I've been, like whether I'm in Latin America, whether I'm in the Middle East, whether I'm in like the Mediterranean, around there, it's people assume that I am, I belong. So I
Mhm.
haven't had this paranoia of like, oh, they're gonna see that I'm a foreigner and they're gonna try to attack me or take advantage or whatever. But regardless, you always need to be careful. You always need to be vigilant. You always need to be aware of what's happening around you and who's walking, and try not to walk around at night alone. And if you do, have pepper spray on you. So, just being smart.
Yeah, and you're exactly right because I have this thing whenever I travel, whether it's for work or personal, I call it a I call it my daily mom knows I'm alive
Right.
text. So
Yeah.
I literally Ruber, I will send her pictures and videos of places I have been that day. So
Nice.
God forbid anything were to happen to me. She has a visual trail of where I have
Where you've
been.
been.
Yeah, and so she could easily go, "My child was here," and then
Right.
adding her with my college bestie on top of that, seeing that she follows me on my stories because I make it a habit of when I'm traveling, I post on my stories, but I make sure I'm gone from wherever I am
Yeah.
before I post because people are crazy. But
Right.
between her and my mom, I'm confident they would find me.
Yeah.
I'm very, very confident they would find me. But
Mhm.
also too, it's a confidence you have to have when
Right.
navigating these spaces
Yeah.
because I tell people no shade to Americans, but I tell people they could tell you American.
Yes.
They could tell you American. And I said, how can you tell that this person's American? So, oh, I could tell you have tells all the way. I said, one is the way you're dressing. I was like,
Mhm.
a lot of times Americans have a look to them
Right.
because they choose not to blend into the culture that they're visiting. Some people feel that when they go to these countries, people have to adapt to their American viewpoint or their personal viewpoint on how people should treat and interact with them. And that's where a lot of times people who are not global citizens or global travelers go wrong, right? And seeing the way that when you share your adventures on our, our Slack channels of the various countries you've been to, I'm like, I just got to give it up to you about all the cool things. I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is so inspiring to see as a woman of color, considering that people like to put us in boxes of where we should be in life. You're literally writing out the story the way you want it to be told and seeing how you have translated your travels into this photography and now your postcards that you just launched recently, which yay, Ruba! It's so
Thank you.
cool to create something like that, especially in this digital age. What inspired you to
Right.
take your photography, let's not call it photography, your art, and turn it into postcards?
I'm I'm very, very not ashamed to say that this came out of a total necessity and a need. I was in a
Mm,
place where I needed an extra source of income. I was working a full-time job, so I wasn't able to do as much photography, like the family shoots and the weddings and stuff as I used to before. And I found myself in a place where I'm like, okay, what do I do? And it was one of those right person, right time, right conversation kind of thing. I somehow just blurted out, like, I need to do something to make an extra bit of income. And my friend said, why don't you sell your photography? And I was like your travel photography. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I mean, I put everything on Instagram. And so when my friend said that, I was like, I don't really want to sell my stuff on Shutterstock. Like, especially now with how advanced technology is and with AI, I don't feel like it's going to be anything special. So one of the things I do when I travel is I buy postcards. I buy postcards from every country, every city, multiple postcards, not just one, but I love them. And they're usually either an illustrator, like someone who's done an illustration, or a photograph. Another thing I collect is paintings as well. So you'll see up here.
ooh, that is so cool.
Thank you.
You're just
Um,
awesome. But go ahead,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
But I love it. It's like I bring a piece of that country back with me. And so how about I bring countries to people instead? So for people who maybe haven't traveled as much or haven't had the chance to travel, why don't I bring a piece of my experience and the beauty that I collect with me to their doorstep? And so how do I do that? And I started thinking snail mail has died, right? No one does that anymore. But I want to bring that back because there's nostalgia and there's magic in sharing that little piece of paper and writing a little note on it and sending it out to someone you care about for whatever occasion, right? And I put myself to work. And within 2 months, I had gone through all of my hard drives, um, and created kind of an inventory and like a plan. I'm going to launch with these 5 countries. And then every couple of weeks, I'm going to like add a new collection of a new country. And we'll see how it goes. That was back in November of last year, so about 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People loved it. People were purchasing. They were so encouraging. They were very supportive. It got me thinking, like, how did I not think of this before? It's such an easy way for me to put something out there for people to enjoy, for people to feel something. And it's an opportunity for me to be potentially part of someone's journey at some point. Because so now that I expanded my idea a bit further and I took it a step further, I now also participate in artist markets, with which then expands, how far of a reach I have. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a different crowd that comes. It's obviously, if I'm only advertising on Instagram, it's usually people in my surroundings and like maybe their friends who see my stuff. But when I'm at a market, you have random people coming through and random strangers coming and asking me questions about my pictures and showing appreciation for the art that I'm putting out there. And it's so validating. It's like borderline intoxicating. I'm like, yes, tell me more how much you love the work that I'm like you selling. And so it's been really, really nice. So now it's I've had people tell me, oh, I'm gonna put this in my kid's bedroom, or someone bought like a baby elephant and the mom elephant, and like she actually sent me an Instagram picture afterwards to show me how she put it in the room. Someone else bought a thing that they're gonna gift to newlyweds, and I'm like, I am becoming, part of someone's journey with this thing that I'm selling, and I love that. And it's like I'm sharing a piece of the world with these little snapshots. And it's bringing me a lot of joy, and I hope that it's bringing people who are receiving it as well.
Yeah, and you said a piece of the world with these little snapshots, but really you're sharing people a piece of your world with these
Right,
snapshots, right? Because
right.
like I mentioned before earlier in the interview, there's a talent that it takes to capture an image through photography, through traditional photography, and not everyone has that talent. And obviously, you're connecting your your ability to pull on my marketing lens. Let me be a nerd real quick. So there is a way that people have to transfer their audience from being a digital audience to actually in person, right? And not everyone can do that. It
Hmm.
takes a talent to go from digital spaces to in person spaces because a lot of times that conversion rate is very low.
Right.
But if you're able to convert your audience from just being digital to in person, that shows you have a real tapped in audience. So, what you're saying, Ruba, by putting it on your social media, like you started back in 2011, which don't worry, I started mine around the same time. You honestly, story time. I took my first selfie. Where did I take that selfie? I was at a bloggers conference. That's what they called us back then. A bloggers conference, right?
Oh.
They Instagram was a speaker at the bloggers conference. So they encouraged us to download Instagram. That's what the heck is an Instagram? And I downloaded it and said, okay, everyone, take your first selfie. So what the heck is a selfie? So my selfie is like me pointing the camera down, looking down, kind of like a very uncle style picture that you see your uncle take on Facebook. And then I see like these four filters because the filters were terrible. And I was like, oh, the
Right.
sepia glow one, that looks the best. How far we have come. How far we have come
Thank the
from
Lord.
those days.
Yeah.
All right. So Ruba, thinking about how like social media for people who are in creative fields, sometimes we have a little apprehension, right, with embracing social media channels and promoting our work. Why do you think there's value for creatives to lean into these channels to amplify awareness for what they're doing?
I think it's very useful, and I think it's very important, but speaking from personal experience, I don't think it's the most important. I think in order for a small business or a creative business to thrive, you need to build connections. And Instagram and Twitter or X or Snapchat isn't where connections are built. Social media platforms are where you show your work, but they're not necessarily where you're building any relationships with potential clients or other creatives. So for me personally, I lean more into creating connections with either other artists or my community, or building trust with clients so that they once they trust me and like the work that I do, spread the word even further. And so, yes, social media is important, but on a scale of like how important it is compared to creating the meaningful connections and the relationships with people in your community or other artists or clients, it's much lower on the scale for me.
Where's my other phone? Oh, darn it. I forgot the question. One of my favorite memories was going to Paris for the first time and getting a cup of coffee. First, my American butt was shocked because I was like, why is this thing so small? Like, where is the rest of it? And I'm like looking at this little baby cup, like this ain't gonna do nothing for me with this little croissant. I'm gonna be hungry. I'm gonna be hungry. And I sat down outside the little Parisian shop with my little petit café, un petit café and a croissant. And I said, okay, I told you I picked up a little French. And I sat down and I just slowed down and enjoyed the process of drinking coffee early in the morning in France. And French people don't wake up as early as Americans. So I'm seeing people out there walking their dogs, pushing strollers. And it made me really appreciate the art of drinking coffee in another country. Because I think it really opened my eyes to how much we rush living in America and how much they savor living in other countries over the little things.
Yeah.
So one day I'm going to enjoy a cup of coffee in Turkey. Who knows? You might join me for that cup of coffee in Turkey. And we take awesome pictures and be creatives and stuff like that.
I love it. But until then, you should come over and have a cup of Turkish coffee at my house, because although I don't drink coffee, I wouldn't be Lebanese if I don't have one in my freezer. So
I love that. And I love people who know how to host properly. I just
that's thanks to my mom. My mom is the reason.
And that's why I say, like, other African American cultures and various cultures know how to host people properly at their homes, and it gives me joy when people host correctly. When you come to their house, like, you're not just gonna come and be hungry,
right?
No. Never. You're either gonna see something cooking or leave with something that's cooked. Like, that's the rule,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Rouba, I'm so grateful for you joining me for coffee. How can people find out more about you and your growing platform?
So Instagram is probably the easiest way to connect. True by Rue is my handle, TrueByrou. That's my travel channel, and then that's my travel business. And then I have my travel account, which is Rubz Sees the World, RUBZSEES the world. And that's more where it's like my travel diary, where all the things go, and it's more personal, where I try to post more personal things to connect with people and, create that kind of authentic connection. Trying to keep up with the times. I'm still not that good at it, but I'm trying. So
I love that. And I love the fact that you segment out those two channels, because I do encourage people to do that. I encourage people to have their business platform and also their personal platform. Depending on what you're talking about, it could get a little bit muddled, essentially.
Right.
So it's just easy to say, hey, you live over here and you live over there.
Yeah, exactly.
For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed today's chat. Don't forget to follow Coffee with Yvonne on Threads and Instagram at Coffee with Yvonne. You can sign up for my newsletter to get personalized audio and video content. Y'all, that's the stuff you cannot get from social media, okay?
Do it.
Do it. You can find out by visiting the show notes. For my personal account, aka me living my regular life, aka me and my mama cutting up, aka me doing all the things, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, aka the Clock app, at Yvonne_creative marketer. To learn more about me and my business, go ahead and follow pinkdollhousemarketing.com online. I own my domain, period, as well as on Instagram at Pink Doll House Marketing. You can slide into my DMs. That's cool. And creatives, as I tell you each and every week, remember to keep showing up, keep creating, and that your voice matters. I cannot wait to chat with you more and chat with you soon, as in next week on Coffee with Yvonne. Okay, bye! Yay!
Thank you. This was amazing.
Coffee with Yvonne is produced and edited by Yvonne Pearson. Coffee with Yvonne is created by Pink Dollhouse Marketing. You can catch the latest episodes by subscribing to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.